Hey everyone, welcome back to OnBase. I'm your host, Chris Moody, and today I'm very excited to talk to Nicole Warshauer on Benefits Decoded, Empowering Healthcare Choices. Nicole, thanks for joining us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so great.
Well, it's awesome to talk to you. We were talking before we hit record and have some North Carolina connections, which is good. Yes. But we like to start with opening up a question to talk about your journey. So what led you to what you're doing today?
This is like one of my favorite questions because I don't have a very clear, compact path. And I love that, honestly, if I'm talking about myself, I love that about myself. I tell people who ask about my career journey that I've really sat at that intersection of like marketing, community, and communication. I'm a really, really curious person, and I've been like super privileged to work with all sorts of industries like nonprofit, design, local business, healthcare. Like I'm a very community-centered gal. Like I spent loads of time getting to know different audiences, and that's what's really made, I think, my journey particularly special. It's kind of like the winding road. It's not just a straight path. And so every role I've really taken on, regardless of like the industry or the title, has had some sort of connection to doing good, like doing some good, not always nonprofit, but I really want to make sure that I'm bringing or facilitating some good into the world, right? And like at Yelp, that meant helping local businesses succeed and get the shine that they really deserve. At Trusted Health, where I was before, it was helping travel nurses find and engage in community, which, as you can imagine, was like really critical because that was 2020 and 2021. So the healthcare community really, really needed it, and they still do. And then where I am right now at HealthEquity, I'm super passionate about ensuring people are educated and empowered about their healthcare choices and their spending. And so I think overall, I really like to immerse myself into the audience however I can so I can understand their pain points and how our product and our brand and our services can help them.
All right, awesome. I love that you hit on the education and the passion there because my favorite stories are when you can talk about brand building in areas that people don't typically think of brand building. So if we start to demystify health benefits for consumers, what are some of the ways that you think about building a brand there?
Yeah, I mean, it's not rocket science, but the truth is it's like meeting people where they are with education. People learn things really differently, and I really do believe that knowledge is power. And of all things for health, it's crucial. And so forever, I think, at least for me, and I think for a lot of consumers and healthcare consumers out there, health benefits have been like mystifying. They're bamboozling. They're complex. They're expensive. They change all the time. And if we're talking about like going back to expensive alone, I was pulling some stats for this conversation and really just for work in general. And like even in the last couple of years, 2022 to 2023, the average healthcare spending increased by 7.5%. Like that's just that year. And that's faster than it increased a couple years ago from 21 to 22, which was 4.6%. So the annual growth rate of expense keeps going up and up and up. And then you think, if we want to demystify this, it's not just about the dollars and cents. Well, that's clearly important. It's also recognizing that healthcare and healthcare benefits are riddled with these feelings, with these emotions of fear, anxiety, sometimes almost to a paralyzing degree, right? That so many people will stay with what they know, even when it doesn't serve them. And like, that's something that I'm very well aware of. So even if it's not a good financial choice for them or their families, we really need to make sure to demystify them, the benefits that is, so people understand how to access and use and afford their healthcare. And that's a lot. That's a lot to contest with. So I think what I'm trying to say is like, before we demystify, we first need to approach that challenge with like a really big heaping scoop of empathy and a lot of curiosity. And that's where we get to work with that research, saying, hey, before we demystify, what are we demystifying? Why are we demystifying this? And so it's our job, and I feel like this is really important for my role and really anybody in this space, is to understand the W's, right? The who needs what, when, where, why. And so benefit education can't be just peanut buttered across the board. It's a really delicate balance, and we have to consider all sorts of segmentation slices, like what generation someone's part of. Do they have a chronic disease? What's their family situation? What's their familiarity with healthcare plans and how to spend and what they should be spending on for the best choice for their family? And so we can't really demystify things until we get clarity on those little like insight pockets, right? So we can design the right education for the right time for the right person.
Yeah, I love that. And we were talking North Carolina. my uncle Ronnie will not listen to this. Okay, great North Carolina name, Ronnie.
Maybe,
but
maybe
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe Ronnie.
I don't know if he knows what a podcast is. I love him, but I don't think he'll listen to this. He's not on LinkedIn. Okay, but to your point about some of the traditional education models that may be failing and helping folks to understand it. I mean, he pays out of pocket cash, right? He does not carry insurance. He's old school in certain regards, right? But to him, I think there's some distrust or lack of education around how health benefits work. So when he's run his own businesses, it's better for him just to pull out money and negotiate old school, like you used to barter, than to carry the health benefits. But why do you think there's some gaps in how benefits are educated to folks?
Well, I think people accept the status quo when they're mystified, first of all. And I think we just talked about this, like when you have these emotional components where people feel that paralysis of like, I don't know what to do here, so I'm just going to go with what I know. Also with what their families have been telling them or been brought up. Like there's a lot of formative experiences that are pulled together in your, teens and your young adult years. And so I think anytime we accept that status quo is like the permanent, we're failing, and we're failing people by doing that. And so if that, the whole adage of like, this is the way we've always done it, so we should keep doing it that way. Like, no, please don't do that. And so if we're blindly believing that all healthcare consumers need A plus B plus C to like select their healthcare plan and use their healthcare spending, we're doing this monster disservice to everybody. So if we're talking about how to empower healthcare consumers, we need to give them choice. And so that's where I think that quote of like traditional health benefits education could fall short. There isn't just one way to inform Ronnie and to educate them. It also requires that deep listening, so social, consumer research, to understand and track how these healthcare consumers are like selecting, using, and understanding their healthcare options, and frankly, saving and spending accordingly. So all in all, like the traditional model falls short because it doesn't meet that complex nature of products and people's lives and what they need.
Yeah, and you mentioned choice. I'm curious if there are some practical strategies you think about and how to close those knowledge gaps around health benefits.
Yeah, I think, not to go back to what we were just talking about, but like the right message, right channel, right member. Certainly like your Uncle Ronnie, I'll use him as an example. Like he probably wouldn't benefit from just-in-time nudges to like go get his preventive care or, go to an urgent care clinic that's down the block from him. While he could benefit from it, it would take longer to get him to take those nudges to get what he needs. So I think it's easier said than done, but that, right message, right channel, right member is really critical. But if you think about the spaces where you spend time, gain insight and knowledge, like where do you learn about your benefits? You learn it from your friends and family members. You learn it from maybe employer institutions, social media. And so we've seen engagement in all of those channels, from peers to employers, LinkedIn to Reddit. They all matter. And so you can't just put all your chips on like, well, we're just going to send mailers and cross our fingers and toes. From a health equity standpoint, we've taken a lot of these learnings and research, and we've developed like a really thoughtful approach for how we're going to educate and engage members on their benefits. And like the financial outcomes that we've seen alone with something like this, I wrote down a couple little notes here. We've developed a program called HealthEquity's Engage 360. And so this is member education program. And with all of these different ways of connecting with people, of educating them, getting them involved so they feel empowered with their benefits, we've seen a 19% higher average balances in their HSAs, 46% higher HSA contributions, and then a 60% higher rate of members investing compared to the industry. Like, it works. You educate people, you meet them where they are, it works. And it's not just a one channel, one approach. So you have to be able to really meet people where they are, connect them with the benefits literacy so they understand, and then you really can fortify their healthcare savings, because it's not an if, it's a when. People are going to need this money to pay for their care.
I love the demystification with data there, right?
Yeah.
Like hit with the stats,
Data
make
gal.
sure.
Yeah, all day long.
Yeah.
All day long.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's really good. And, my brain was going to a lot of the challenges we face in marketing with all the channels and all the tactics. And to your point, like, we're not trying to find perfect attribution. No. It's about being where they are, wherever that may be, whether that's a rural person who's not going to be on Reddit or someone who works at a bleeding edge startup, it doesn't matter. I'm curious too, what are some of the skills that you think are really important for those listening that are trying to build education or build knowledge or build a brand for something that might not be the most glamorous topic in the world if we were just to look at it on paper? What's some of the skill set that you like to find?
Before I even answer that question, what I will say is I love talking about building brands and building teams who build brands for the unsexy, the unglamorous, because like, show me a plumber who's got like amazing reviews and amazing brand, and I'll show you like a very good marketer. Like that is the stuff. I mean, and I love consumer goods. I love CPG. Anyone who knows me will tell you like, I love makeup. I love fun, flashy brands. But the skills that you develop when you have to market and connect and engage on a brand that's not like super high mind and super cool and flashy, like those to me are the most talented people and the most empathetic people. And I think that like empathy, awareness, curiosity of like being willing to step into the shoes of the person who's having that challenge or problem, like that's where you build a brand. And so I imagine I do, like cultivating that curiosity with my team that like they need to know not just like the what and the how of like benefits education as an example, but like more importantly, the why. Why are we doing this? Are we value related? And so me personally, when I'm looking to build my team, Chris, I'm looking at, I want to find skilled and empathetic marketers. I want them to know those channels and feel like they can play in those channels and listen to those channels. So yes, it is social, but it's also places like, how good of a writer are you? And when I say good, I mean, do you understand the lexicon of what's being talked about here? Can you empathize with their situation and write a proper response, whether it's a blog or whether it's a social post? I also want to work with really talented product marketers, not necessarily on the brand team, but to me, product marketing and brand need to be like linked arms and working in lockstep, because we have to coalesce about what are we aiming to achieve here? What problems are we solving together? And what does success look like? I think, we could wax poetic all day long about like, we want this awareness, we want this aided, we want this for engagement. And that's great. But you also need to understand how your product marketers are being pulled into this conversation as well. And same thing with comms and social. So overall, I'm looking for people who are very self-aware of how they can connect with the audiences, how they can connect the brand to the solution. And then on the curiosity front, if I'm looking for great skills, I want people to look not only in those like industry-wide reports, I want them to expand. Like I want people who have varied interests, because for healthcare benefits, like everybody needs healthcare. Like we know this is very varied, for lack of a better word. And so I want people to look into other places for research. And I gave, a couple industry-wide reports for healthcare and HSAs in particular. We look at Devenir, we look at eBree. There's some like gold standards there. Do a lot of research at HealthEquity. It's really important to me that I'm not just going off of gut. And so I want people who understand and are very curious about the research. What could we learn? What is not out there? How could we, I hate the word double click, but like that's where we're at. How can we double click like into this? And then lastly, connecting with our partners to really understand what they're bringing to the table. So we worked with Patient, it's Paytient. I like to clarify that because the eponymous name. They did some really kind of heartbreaking research last year. It's called Nonfiction, The Hidden Lives of Workplace Insured Americans. And this is where the empathy comes into play. You can't just look at how you experience the world. You have to be able to experience the best you can how other people do. And that connects to your brand. Like if you want to be known as X, Y, and Z, what's it going to take to get there in the eyes of the people who you work with? And so again, curiosity, empathy, awareness, and being able to look to other industries to understand how to create that education, I think all come into play.
Awesome. 10 out of 10. No notes on that answer. That was great. One thing that was coming to mind for me, the curiosity, I think that's such an important trait. If I was writing a LinkedIn hook, which I need to do, it will probably be about how that's the number one thing to hire for or something like that.
Yeah,
one book.
It's really hard to, right?
It is. And it leads to something better every time, no matter where you work. If you're curious, you will find answers. And Marcus Sheridan came to mind, which we'll get to Goodreads in a minute,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
his book, They Ask You Answer, literally Marcus's rise to fame. Now, he was always awesome, but his
Sure.
rise to fame in our space, in marketing and sales, was at a swimming pool company he was running. And
Yeah.
he decided he'd answer every single question there was about anything with swimming pools.
That's
And
so
then
cool.
it became the #1 resource on the internet and grew
Yeah.
his business, right?
Yeah. We have such a, speaking of that, so HealthEquity in particular. So one of our founders, Dr. Steve Nealman, he's an actual doctor. He's amazing. He's a surgeon. He's incredible. He's still on our executive board. He's just a wonderful human being. And he wrote this HSA guidebook a million years ago, and we keep updating it every year. And it is, I mean, to have somebody not just know a lot about, I know a lot about HSAs, I know about the medical community. The guy writes the guidebook he updates it every year, and they're like real world examples. So if you really want to nerd out on that stuff, as you said, like the information's out there, but to become an expert, or at least very curious about always learning, always iterating what you know and how it applies to the real world, I think is so key. And that even speaks to some of the areas. Like I have my MBA, I went through plenty of education. One of the first things I did when I came to HealthEquity was I got my HSAE. It's a health savings account expert certification. Chris, it was so hard. It was stuff that I was not familiar with. I had to go back to school and start, cranking out these scenarios and numbers in my mind. But it gave me this really intense appreciation for how complex these products and services can be, and to expect a healthcare consumer to even get 15% of this is that's huge. That said, they don't need to understand 100%, but they do need to have this base level knowledge. And so just having that, as I said, appreciation for this is really going to help your life. And so let me make sure I focus on the pieces of education that are going to help you make sure you feel comfortable paying for your healthcare that you need.
Well, that nice example of curiosity there to continue to go deep. What resistance or challenges do you face when you're introducing new educational methods, whether that's webinars, AI tools, going in Reddit, whatever it may be?
Yeah. I think we all know and believe and have agreed upon, people are naturally protective and they're resistant to change, right? Even if we say I love change, no, you don't, you're lying. It takes a lot to get people to that place of being super comfortable with significant change. And then when it comes to healthcare and healthcare savings, we talked about this before, that it is emotionally driven. These are long held beliefs and feelings. And so it's really understandable that some people are going to be a little leery of tech-driven approaches, especially when it comes to AI. And that's something we can talk about, separately. But when you offer that blend, at least in my opinion, of high touch and high tech, you get the best of both worlds. So I really do want great customer service, and we can use an AI tool to get you your answer faster or better, more efficiently. And then you also have that backing of a human. And so at HealthEquity in particular, we take privacy and health savings really seriously. And so we want to be as transparent as possible about those educational paths. And so we have the ability to help healthcare consumers make those informed choices, giving them the option, giving them back to choice, right? Giving them the choice. I think that's why I particularly fly that educational flag so hard, is that I want people to know it's not just about how much they're going to contribute to their health savings plan, their HSA or their DCFSA or what have you, but rather to have enough information from those channels that serve them best. And so above all, that they feel empowered. And that means to me, empowered is clear and confident. I know what I'm supposed to do here. I feel like I have a safety net of some sort, that they have the savings when they need it. Again, it's not an if, right? It's a when those healthcare expenses come to light. So I think we're expecting that you're going to get a resistance, and also being perceptive of how am I going to address this when this comes up? How can I make people feel confident and comfortable as we go forward?
Well, you pulled the AI thread. I feel like any podcast, when you say AI, you have to ask 5 questions about AI. We were restricted to 1.
Yeah,
but,
you look at 1. Yeah.
Well, what are some of your favorite use cases that you're seeing for AI in marketing right now?
I think for AI in marketing, there's a ton. Obviously, I'm going to pull my own. I'm going to at least plug it. So last year, we developed something called HSAnswers. It's actually short for Health Savings Answers. And so if you or anyone has questions about health savings account, dependent care accounts, flexible spending accounts, anything, you can go to HealthEquity, click HSAnswers, and you can get a conversational piece from this AI-powered tool to answer any of your questions, not just, even if you don't have a health savings account with HealthEquity, you can go get these answers. And so it really just like cuts the time for you to get that education that like I'm flying the flag so hard for, right? And we created it with both individuals and businesses in mind. And so when you go to that tool and you split it, it'll ask you like, are you an individual looking for education or are you a business? And so it really gives that bridge to people who are looking for benefits, education, and delivers a precise answer and like linked out resources. So if it's specific to commuter benefits, like it'll flip you to the correct blog post or the correct page that we have available to educate people. You know, at HealthEquity, like we're really AI forward. We have a lot of different tools at our disposal that we've really fought for on the brand team, because we know if you don't embrace that technology, it's to your own kind of downfall, if you will. And so we know that we're not going to take everything from AI as 100% implementable from the get-go, right? We need to be able to use our curiosity, use our human connection. And that goes for Copilot, it goes for HSAnswers, it goes for really anything. It's above all, it's like AI in marketing is really great. I mean, we use tools like Jasper, like all really interesting, time-saving, efficient, thoughtful tools. But without critical thinking to back it up, like these tools mean nothing. So I think it's just really critical that we use critical thinking when we implore some of these AI tools into the mix.
Absolutely. And we hit on this a little bit before we hit record. So we need to make sure we hit on the fun element and making sure you get the right cultures. I'm curious, Nicole, how do you foster a creative and innovative marketing team culture?
Yeah, I'd say like two areas, and I think my team hears me say this a lot. Like risks are okay. Calculated risks are good. I think people get stifled not feeling they can be creative or innovative. If they're like, we have to do it this way. Obviously, in some industries, we have to be so thoughtful and careful about areas that we take risks. Like I would never take risks with, personal privacy information, with HIPAA, PII, PI, any of that good stuff. But if the risks are calculated and they aren't hurting anybody, like failure is okay. And so I think it's okay to bring your team along for that point of view. And also know that like iterating, experimenting, and continuously learning, like that's our job. And I'm sure we kind of discussed this earlier too. It needs to be trackable. And so like before you take a swing somewhere, before you're going to try a new campaign or a new perspective, we need to be able to measure how it's doing. And then we also have to be really open to hear each other say like, well, what if we did this? And like the what if we did is something I think I say all the time. And I encourage my team to be like, that's really cool. And what if, but what if we did this? I think it's just opening up that communication to say like, we're not happy with the status quo. Like we can be in this together, knowing that there's always improvement to be made, and where can we take those risks to make that improvement?
Great stuff. And look, I'm going to hold you to one thing. I think we could hit on a ton of challenges.
Yeah.
You can only pick one. What is the biggest challenge in B2B marketing right now?
The personalization at scale, I think, is really hard. And it's a really good thing that we're admitting that it's hard, because people are so different, right? Our needs are different. It changes from moment to moment. Like family situations are different when I think about healthcare benefits, right? You have a baby and like your view on healthcare is going to be very different potentially than it was when you're single in your mid-20s. So everyone's busy. Everyone's got a lot going on. Personalizing, for it to really like sing at scale, your tech just needs to be top notch, and it has to be really flexible to meet people where they are.
Great segue. You did it for me. We're going to go into the lightning round here. So we have some quick hitters, and the first is on tech. And you just said tech, so that was perfect. We can run a podcast together now. What are your favorite tools or technology?
Okay. I mean, this is probably going to be like classic chick, but like I think ChatGPT is great for personal stuff for me. I already mentioned I like Copilot and Jasper for work lanes, but I think it's super helpful to try a couple different GPTs, figure out like what works for you and like what's allowed. And always be willing to like question it. Like I push back all the time. So I'm like, that's not right. That sounds weird, redo. But yeah, I would say ChatGPT for personal and probably Copilot and Jasper for work stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I use some to check homework with my 13-year-old. I
Tell me
can
about it.
do it all,
The
but it
area of
saves me time.
parallelogram really threw me the other day, and I did have to use it to check
Yeah,
that.
and it's gotten it wrong a few times, to your point too.
It
And I was like,
has.
that doesn't look correct. And then it will apologize. Any
I'm so
GPT will be
sorry.
like, sorry
Yeah.
about that. I
And
re-looked at this and I misunderstood the question.
I
Yeah, I'm
find
like,
that's especially apparent when I go have it find some like recent research. It'll come back with things like, that's not what this says, or this isn't in the abstract. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. So going back to like what we were sharing, like you got to be checking this stuff. You have to be a critical thinker. It's going to hallucinate. Like it's your job to triple check.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's jump back into reads.
Okay.
What are your favorite books, blogs, newsletters, or podcasts?
I have a ton. I think as we were discussing earlier, like I'm a woman who always likes to learn things. And so I don't just say like these are the three books that like made me who I am. Like that's just ludicrous. I do spend some time on LinkedIn a couple times a week. It's not every day. It's got to be honest. We got too many other things going on. But I find like the LinkedIn education is so helpful to keep me engaged with what people are interested in, what they're talking about. And I'm saving stuff all the time, sharing it with my team. I think that's really helpful. And just as a plug, if you do that, if you save stuff, like go back in there and remember what you saved, like that's super helpful. It's like a little mini education series. And then also tell the person who you saved it from that it was helpful to you. I think that means so much to like building community and actually like finding things that are helpful to you. I love podcasts. I like both personal podcasts as businessy podcasts too. But for books, kind of the same lanes, fun and enjoyment for sure, like reading an actual book or even on my Kindle or my phone. The one business book that I pick up a lot just as a reference, like tactily I pick it up, is Cole Nussbaum Knaflich's Storytelling with Data. It's actually like over here on top of my dog's crate. It's so clear. I pick it up all the time when it talks about clearly showing data and what it means to people. So if you are interested in market research and storytelling with data, that is the best for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Who inspires you in B2B marketing, especially?
This is like such an impossible question because there are so many. And I really appreciate that we're focusing on people in B2B because I don't think they get the shine that they deserve, where frankly, B2B marketing is just as, if not more difficult than B2C. And I've worked in both. So I feel like I'm at least allowed to say that here. Jay Tambini is fabulous. If you don't follow her stuff on LinkedIn, I know she's got a lot of other opportunities to connect with her. She's incredible. Just really great, thoughtful insights that are evidence-backed. Hannah Shamji, she is really focused on market research. She's got great posts on LinkedIn. I love reading her stuff. And then same thing with Erica Schneider. Like those three ladies, whenever I see their stuff, it's like an 80% chance I'm probably going to save it. So if you're interested in market research, B2B, and also just like consumer insights, those three are a must follow.
Love it. And then the most important question of all, Nicole, how can everyone get in touch with you after this episode?
I mean, LinkedIn, that's the best way. I mean, don't try to sell me anything. I probably can't buy it, but I would love to connect with people. And I love hearing about your challenges. And as I said, I've been in all these different industries in the past. So I really like hearing about other industries, opportunities, challenges, and just seeing like where things can be connected.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicole. It's been a pleasure having you on.
So fun. Thank you for having me.